Uh, Welcome, sir. Am I audible, sir? Please on your mic, sir.
Yes, welcome. Nice to
Uh,
meet you.
uh, uh, Good afternoon, sir. Here in India, this is afternoon. I had two past one, and I welcome on the behalf of UGC-MMTTC and our department, history department, and our university, Dr. Harisingh Gour Vishwavidyalaya, and from all the participant of our this course. And today we have with us Christian Bartolf, the president of Gandhi Information Center, Berlin, Germany. And friends, this is my privilege to introduce him because I am being the Facebook friend of last 3 4 years with him, and I share common thoughts with him. And it is really wonderful experience for me to that he is with us, and I feel fortunate that that is the common factor between us is Gandhi, and that is why he is here. And today he will talk about Gandhi and Federation. And before that, I will start this program. I just want to introduce Dr. Christian Bartolf. The Christian Bartolf is a German scholar, author, curator, and long-time advocate for non-violence and peace education. Dear friends, in his initial stage, at the age of 19, 18, 19, when he was young, he was in just he entered in college, and he go through the book of Martin Luther King Jr., and the whole life of Christian Bartolf is altogether changed, and his thought process and everything. And talking about him, he serves as the president of Gandhi Information Center. Gandhi Information Center in Zentrum in Berlin. Basically, the role of this information center is to promote the Gandhian values, the non-violence and peace, and through education, and the very pious role which is playing by this institute by this since 1993. And since 1993, Dr. Christian Bartolf is president of this reputed organization. The organization focuses on research, education, and promotion of non-violent principles inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, Leo Tolstoy, and related thinkers. And Dr. Christian Barthold holds a Doctor of Philosophy from the Free University of Berlin, awarded in 2021. He has 2 university diplomas in educational science and political science. His work centers on political philosophy, human rights, democracy, conflict resolution, philosophy of religion, and the history of nonviolent resolution. And the key contribution of Christian Barthold is a prolific author, editor, and curator of exhibition and publication on themes like Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy and correspondence, and Leo Tolstoy influence on nonviolence, connections between Gandhi, Tolstoy, and other pacifists. And he also worked on Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. And importantly, the connections between Herman Kallenbach and Gandhi, Gandhi's close friend in South Africa, and Dr. Boers, and broader topics such as nonviolent resistance, peace education, and critics of war and fascism. And notable works of activities include the books like Letter to a Hindu, Tarak Nath Das, Leo Tolstoy, and Mahatma Gandhi. Edited volumes such as The Breath of Life, The Correspondence of Mahatma Gandhi, and Bard the Light of War and Peace, and co-authored biography on Herman Kallenbach. And several lectures he has delivered in webinars and seminars and conferences all over the world. And he has visited India many times. I think 5 to 7 times. First time he visited to India in 1998, then 2007, and after that, recently in 2023. Am I correct, sir?
It's true, yes.
Yeah. So, Dr. Christian Bartolf is engaged all the time in academics, and he is very much active in Facebook, ResearchGate, Academia Edu, and X platform. And and he is very quick in the response. Whenever you message him, he always give a proper response. And I cannot forget the love and the affection I get from him last 1 week, and it was a great pleasure for me talking to him. Not taking much time, sir, I just invite you for your prestigious lecture, Gandhi and World Federation. Sir, over to you, sir. And this is your platform. This is your stage for next 1 hour, and you have to give your thought. You will share your thoughts with us, and it will be really. We feel proud that being a German citizen, you have a common thought sharing of Gandhi with us. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much for your invitation. I'm so glad to receive this request to speak about Gandhi in your context. I know that you are focusing mainly on the makers of modern India, on the pioneers of Indian liberation from the colonial yoke of the British imperialism. But I personally would like to shed some light on a topic which I already exposed in a part of it, at least, in an article which I gave you here called Gandhi and Tagore Beyond Nationalism Towards a World Federation, published in New Delhi in Global Gandhi. This is an online magazine. And I also gave you, in addition, I gave you two links. One, the starting page of our website of the Gandhi Information Center, Research and Education for Non-Violence. It's a society only for education. And we published books, exhibitions, and it's very substantial contribution on our website. You find most of the exhibitions, 13 exhibitions in English language on John Ruskin, Gandhi, Henry David Thoreau, Martin Luther King, Leo Tolstoy, Tolstoy and the Duke of Wars. And so we also focused on writing articles in publications published in some, let me say, collections of essays on the origin of the Savodaya philosophy or the Satyagraha philosophy. And these are, let me say, introductions, and you can find these references on our timeline of our Gandhi Information Center's website. We called it Nonviolent Resistance. This is actually this is the core interest to highlight the alternative to civil war and war, the alternative to violence, and also to prevent violence. This is the issue. It's an educational issue, of course. When I was in India as a student in 1985, I was happy to visit the National Gandhi Museum and the bookshop. And in this context, there were very interesting publications, English language from India, about Gandhi's political philosophy, not only, but also Gandhi's educational philosophy. So then I thought, as a student of political and educational sciences at the Free University in Berlin, it would be good to draw inspiration from Gandhi for our world problems. And so I regard myself as a German citizen, certainly a citizen of the European Union, a citizen of a member state of the Council of Europe, but also as a citizen of one of the many member states of the United Nations. So I would suggest and also recommend, in the age of reform of the United Nations, which is a demand for all of us, to encourage the cosmopolitan discourse on the philosophy and thought of Mahatma Gandhi. So I just try to explain why first, and start with Rabindranath Tagore. And Gandhi and Tagore contributed thoughtful reflections on the utopian concept of a world federation beyond nationalism. Gandhi derived his main inspiration for a cosmopolitan vista from Tagore. Let us recollect challenging messages that may guide us. Rabindranath Tagore was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1913, as we know. He was the messenger of India, by the way. In Europe and America, he was the representative of India together with Sarojini Naidu. And when he was 55 years old, Tagore, the poet, gave a series of lectures on the cult of nationalism during his tour of Japan from May to September 1916, and again while lecturing in the United States from September 1916 until January 1917. And this was during the First World War, which is erroneously called the Great War. And that was a catastrophe, not only but mostly for Europe, and also a lesson in the toxic and evil effects of nationalist cults. So it was quite proper that Tagore called the series of lectures the cult of nationalism. And his views regarding nationalism in India were quite thought-provoking. India has never had a real sense of nationalism then, even though from childhood I had been taught that idolatry of the nation is almost better than reverence for God and humanity. I believe I have outgrown that teaching, and it is my conviction that my countrymen will truly gain their India by fighting against the education which teaches them that a country is greater than the ideals of humanity. And he made a point by writing, I am not against one nation in particular, but against the general idea of all nations. What is the nation? And then he explains at length why the mechanical organization of national power is, quote, supremely dangerous to humanity, unquote, compromises the complete moral personality and perpetuates slavery with these concluding remarks, quote, nationalism is a great menace. It is the particular thing which for years has been at the bottom of India's troubles. And inasmuch as we have been ruled and dominated by a nation that is strictly political in its attitude, we have tried to develop within ourselves, despite our inheritance from the past, a belief in our eventual political destiny. When Tagore delivered an address to the inmates of Satyagraha Ashram Sabarmati during his visit on December 4, 1922, in the absence of Gandhiji, who had been clamped in jail earlier in the year, he spoke about who is a Mahatma and expressed the meaning of the term and title Mahatma according to Tagore himself. And I I bring this at the beginning of my lecture because it is quite interesting that many people, researchers, think about who was the first to call Gandhi a Mahatma, and also how was this title understood before Gandhi received this title in the popular um, uh, view. And I must ask myself, why did Tagore call Gandhi a Mahatma? This was my question. And Tagore, this is an excerpt from his address in 1922, December 4. What then is the quote? What then is the true meaning of sacrifice? It means that for human beings, the life of the body is not the best life, but the life of the soul. The material world which we share with the animals is not the only world. We have higher needs because we have a deeper and a higher life hidden within us. That hidden life is immortal. And then, what is the true meaning of the great word Mahatma? It implies the emancipated soul that realizes itself in all souls. It means the life that is no longer confined within itself, but finds its larger soul of Atman, of spirit. Then, in such realization, it becomes Mahatma, for it includes all spirits in itself. This is the divinity of universal activity, who is the great soul, who constantly dwells in the hearts of all peoples. They who know him with a heart and with a mind, which is sure in its perception, become immortal. The meaning is this: the great universal spirit, the Mahatma, whose activities are for the whole world, is not for any confinement or limitation, but for the universe. Unquote. When Tagore was in Hamburg, Germany, 1 year before, he wrote in one of his letters on May 17, 1921, a summary, in essence, of his universal message of India, still cherishing, quote, in her heart, the immortal mantram of peace, of goodness, of unity, unquote, which resonated all over the world, from Japan to the United States, from Iran to Germany. Quote, the message of the one in the all, which had been proclaimed in the shade of India's forest solitude, is waiting to bring reconciliation to the men who are fighting in the dark, who have lost the recognition of their brotherhood. Quote, the mantra which gives our spiritual vision its right of entrance into the soul of all things is the mantra of India, the mantra of peace, of goodness, of unity. The distracted mind of the West is knocking at the gate of India for this. And is it to be met there with a hoarse shout of exclusion? Unquote. The friendship between Tagore and Gandhi dated back to as early as 1914, when Tagore gave a message to the souvenir of the passive resistance movement in South Africa, 1906 to 1914, published by the proprietors of the Indian Opinion, Phoenix, Natal, Golden Number of Indian Opinion. Tagore refers to the struggle in South Africa as the, quote, the steep ascent of manhood, not through the bloody path of violence, but that of dignified patience and heroic self-renunciation, unquote. Quote, The power our fellow countrymen have shown in standing firm for their cause under severest trials, fighting unarmed against fearful odds, has given us a firmer faith in the strength of the God that can defy sufferings and defeats at the hands of physical supremacy that can make its gains of its losses, unquote. This was 1914. Tagore about Gandhi and the Indian Satyagrahi in South Africa. And in the year 1933, a dark year for Germany, by the way, very dark year, the darkest year of the last century, maybe. In the year 1933, Tagore connected his concept of the supreme man with satyagraha. Quote, those who have in them the great capacity of feeling within themselves the one spirit in all men are the people to whom we give the name Mahatma or Great Soul. It is they who can lay down their lives for the good of all men. It is they who can address their comprehensive spirit within and without them and say, he is dearer than a son, dearer than wealth, dearer than all else is this spirit who is in our inmost heart. The scientist condemns such statements. He says that we attribute humanity to God in calling him our beloved. I reply that it is not attributing but realizing humanity. It is by developing the sense of the dignity of his human truth that man has attained to his God. So this was part one, the words of Rabindranath Tagore. Now, Gandhi and World Federation. In 1940, Mahatma Gandhi made it clear. Of course, I would welcome a World Federation of all the nations of the world. In a letter to Morris Friedman, he wrote in 1942 his political vision. If I can get freedom for India now through non-violent means, power of non-violence is firmly established. Empire idea dissolves and world state takes its place, in which all the states of the world are free and equal. No state has its military. There may be a world police to keep order in the absence of universal belief in nonviolence. Unquote. His peace plan anticipated the end of the Second World War, embraced a plea for inclusion, and emphasized India's role to play in a world federation. Quote, the very first step to a world federation is to recognize the freedom of conquered and exploited nations. Thus, India and Africa have to be freed. The second step would be to announce to and assure the aggressor powers, in the present instance, the Axis powers, that was Germany, Italy, Japan. The second step would be to announce to and assure the aggressor powers, in the present instance, the Axis powers, that immediately the war ends, they will be recognized as members of the World Federation in the same sense as the Allies. This presupposes an agreement among the members of the World Federation as to the irreducible fundamentals. If this is not forthcoming, the Federation will fall to pieces under the slightest strain. Therefore, it has to come about voluntarily. I suggest that non-violence is the basis of voluntariness. It is because of all the nations of the world, India is the one nation which has a message, however limited and crude it may be, in that direction, that it must have immediate freedom to enable it to play its part. So you see that he linked the plea for a world federation without national armies with the liberation of India as a sovereign state and a role model for the world. Actually, India was, in his concept, as we know, then the complete Indian subcontinent with, no separation between religious and national and ethnic communities. In his speech at the All India Congress Committee meeting in Bombay, August 1942, Gandhi described how he combined his cosmopolitan vista with his Indian independence campaign. Quote, "My democracy means every man is his own master. I have read sufficient history, and I did not see such an experiment on so large a scale for the establishment of democracy by non-violence. Once you understand these things, you will forget the differences between the Hindus and the Muslims. We are aiming at a world federation in which India would be a leading unit. It can come only through non-violence. Disarmament is only possible if you use the matchless weapon of non-violence. There are people who may call me a visionary, but I tell you, I am a real banya, and my business is to obtain Swaraj." So you see this, this humor also, this irony or self-irony, whatever, all his mental capacities, all his, we say, the traits of his sweet soul, he used to plea for this perspective for mankind. And in his interview with the journalist Ralph Coniston of the Collier's Weekly, April 1945, Gandhi was asked what kind of world organization would promote an enduring peace or preserve it. And he responded, only an organization based predominantly on truth and nonviolence. As a practical idealist, he emphasized his perspective of a world federation, quote, if it is built on an essentially non-violent basis. And you know, this link between truth and non-violence was the reason why I got interested in Mahatma Gandhi, introduced to him by Dr. Martin Luther King's first autobiography, Stride Towards Freedom, in the chapter Pilgrimage to Nonviolence. And I think this is still a blueprint for starters of nonviolent philosophy. And as I appreciate Gandhi as a thinker and philosopher, I think it is quite clear that we shall be interested in his message he himself gave during the Asian Relations Conference in Delhi, April 1947, when Gandhi, elaborated his plea for a peaceful global democracy without the military system, without war. Gandhi spoke then, a world federation is possible of realization, and in that case, it would not be necessary for countries to maintain armed forces. Some countries today describe themselves as democratic, but of course, one does not become a democrat by simply saying so. What is the need for an army where there is rule by the people? Where the army rules, the people cannot rule. There can be no world federation of countries ruled by armies. And now I would like to add what I wrote in this essay. I gave you the link uh, in the Gandhi Global Electronic Journal. It was just a small part of the very interesting search for references, these references of Gandhi referring to the World Federation, because I I am responsible to you to add two more remarks of Gandhi, which also highlight what which concepts of a world federation Gandhi did not approve to. So this is important for distinguishing, distinguishing the right and the false concepts and pathways towards a world federation. This is very important because, as you know, all the terms we use are on debate. They are all used and misused. They are all interpreted different ways. And that's very interesting that Gandhi was asked, usually by journalists, usually from USA or from Britain, and he gave very precise responses, and you can read them in the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, which are online at Gandhi Heritage Portal. And 1940, he gave an interview to the New York Times, and there was a very popular scheme of a man called Stride of 15 white democracies. White means, not Asian or African democracies, with India excluded. And so Gandhi was asked about this plan, one of the first plan, and it was not the first, as we now know. The first was from a different side. I will add this. But he was asked about this scheme of Sprite. That was the name of the man. And he had propounded this scheme in Union Now. C.K. Sprite, an American journalist. Have you any views about World Federation or about the Federation of Europe with the British Commonwealth and again excluding India? Would you advise India to enter such a larger federation so as to prevent a domination of the colored races by the white? That was their question. And Gandhi's response is, of course, interesting. Of course, I would welcome a world federation of all the nations of the world. A federation of the Western nations only will be an unholy combination and a menace to humanity. In my opinion, a federation excluding India is now an impossibility. India has already passed the stage when she could be safely neglected. So he was self-confident enough in 1940 that India cannot be neglected. And this was true then, and it certainly is true now. So this is my personal remark. But there's another 1941 question, an interview to H.V. Kamat at Sevagram, September 5, 1941. And this is very significant because it gives us a task. It challenges us. Can you, Mahatma Ji, envisage the emergence of a non-violent new world order in the Atlantic Charter? That was the question. Atlantic Charter, you know, the precursor of the United Nations Charter, actually. And Gandhi had a very clear response to this. So the question again was, can you, Mahatma Ji, envisage the emergence of a non-violent new world order in the Atlantic Charter? And as we know, the non-violent new world order was the concept of Gandhi himself as a world federation. Yeah. So, and Gandhi responded, no, I am not able to envisage in the Atlantic Charter the emergence of a non-violent new world order of my conception. You see, that's why we all are challenged to transform and develop the United Nations Charter and the United Nations to a real world federation in lines of the non-violent new world order concept of Mahatma Gandhi. So now that was the second part of my lecture, and Dr. Singh, is at least one small addition possible for me just to explain
Yes,
what?
yes, sir. Why not?
Yes,
Why not? Why not? Why not?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, sir.
Because, you know, there is so much more to say. I could speak for 3 hours and everything would be new and new and new, including a speech of an Indian foreign minister at the United Nations as a plea for a world federation. I can give you the speech, and I would like to, if you want me to do so. But first of all, I would like to add from my side the very interesting, let me say, basic question: what is a world federation? Yeah, at least we should shed some light on this. There should be a, there should be a new uh, constitution or charter, of course. There should be a new Bill of Rights. But what, in general, what is a world federation? And of course, now we can say this might be a no-brainer. Every one of us know what this is, what this means. Yeah. So a kind of global government in which the countries of the world unite under a single federal system. Federal system like the Federal Republic of Germany, by the way, consists of states, federal states, or the European Parliament, the Council of Europe. But it's, let me say so, it's not just a matter of sovereignty, which is diminished for the nation state and transferred to a supranational organization or institution. It's much more a global federal government, a central authority responsible for issues like preventing wars, global security, addressing climate change, regulating global trade, protecting human rights. And of course, one could debate to keep the, let me say, the culture and civilization of each nation, individual countries, keep control over education, culture, local laws, domestic policy, sure. But there would be a shared constitution, division of powers, individual rights, a structure of global institutions. In a way, social justice and equality would be a basic parameter, basic principle. The United Nations is not a world federation. It's an organization of sovereign states. And those who support the concept of a world federation, they want to end wars between nations, and they want to coordinate effective global responses to climate change, reduce and abolish nuclear weapons, promote universal human rights. And there are two articles in the United Nations Charter where you can build upon by transforming the United Nations towards the World Federation. This is Article 24 and Article 106. You can, of course, try to envisage or draft the concept of a world federation outside the United Nations, but this is not necessary, because actually the United Nations Charter was, let me say, written and drafted by those who want to develop the Constitution of the United Nations. They saw the United Nations Charter not as the last word. They wanted to develop, you understand, to develop, to go beyond a kind of transitional enforcement, not just to develop the United Nations Security Council, but also develop the Constitution of the United Nations. It was not fixed. Of course, it should not be paralyzed by the veto power. So I just want to give you this this reference that, in a way, the tools for changing you can find even in the United Nations Charter. And I could elaborate that, but I don't want to do this now in the frame of this lecture at the moment. So, but I want to give you another important thought, that it was not just Streit's proposal of a Western-dominated World Federation in 1939 and afterwards, but there were also other, much more intelligent concepts of a World Federation. And if Gandhi had known these concepts, then he would have appreciated and welcomed them. And there's particularly one of these concepts I would like to mention, at least, so that you are aware that these concepts were not only supported by Albert Einstein or Bertrand Russell, Norman Cousins, and and H.G. Wells in his novels, but also you have a real, we could say, plans, drafts, and after the Second World War, real institutions which were influencing the United Nations and activities for 5 years between 1945 and 1948, mostly, 1949. And also you have reasons why these efforts for a real world federation, these movements then, which are not well known, were uh, reduced in their effect. But one of these concepts which are going beyond those which were discussed, I would like to mention at least, so that you have an idea that there is something we can build upon which is being ignored. So I give you the book title also. It's called Chaos, War, or a New World Order: What We Must Do to Establish the All-Inclusive Non-Military Democratic Federation of Nations. That was a short but historically important pamphlet jointly authored by Lola Maverick Lloyd and Rosika Schwimmer that laid out a concrete early World Federalists program well before the atomic age made global federation a wider political issue. And the key ideas and proposals were: one, democratic federalism, a world federation of nations, democratic and representative, based on the direct participation of peoples, not just governments. World Constitutional Convention, a first step would be to elect delegates to draft a world constitution along federal lines. So the first was democratic federalism. The second, non-military and peace-focused. The federation would abolish standing national armies and outlaw war as an instrument of policy. Third, a representation system. Each nation would be invited to join immediately. There would be equitable and direct representation of the world's citizen in the federal body. They envisioned fixed delegate numbers and systems of popular vote. The fourth is institutions and reforms, a central executive authority for world governance, a separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial, and a peaceful settlement of international disputes by arbitration under the World Federation. This is very important for us now, or essential: peaceful settlement of international disputes by arbitration under the World Federation. And this was a very interesting text. It was published in 1942, but it was drafted even before. It was first published under the auspices of the Campaign for World Government, which they had co-founded in 1937 as a manifesto. And the printed edition was in 1938 and again in 1942. So you see, if Gandhi had come across this concept, I think he would have rejoiced. So, and this is the same as nowadays. You find thinkers in Europe, in the Americas, in all continents, in Africa, in Asia and Oceania. You find thinkers who are marginalized. They are not published on the mass media. They are real thinkers, they give perspectives, visions, but they are more or less dangerous for those who want to keep the established system or their old concept of an order based on nationalism, militarism, and who define security uh, strongly in a military way, and they do not uh, think about the alternative because they are afraid there could be some risk. But this is important for us to go deeper into these concepts, um, update them, and I just show you. I show you now. I just show you at the end of my lecture. I just show you what I did, and that's why I'm grateful to you that you asked me. Um, uh, I show you that I have a script with let me say 50 pages, so I could now, even in case you have questions about these concepts, shed light on many different aspects of this concept, referring to the main thinkers after 1945, like Albert Einstein, etc., and activists like Gary Davis, and uh, and all the institutions which were built and also influenced our political culture. So, but they are almost forgotten. Still, nowadays, you find world federalists in different shapes, and I could try to describe to you, that would be a different lecture maybe, how this developed after 1945. But as I promised you to give some thoughts on Gandhi and World Federation, I uh, I keep it like this, just reminding all of us that in the year 1948, when Gandhi was assassinated, the Nobel Peace Prize was not awarded. You understand? So this was a very, very indirect reference to the missing laureate, uh, how he's called now by the Nobel Committee, the missing laureate, and a great regret that he never received. Although after 1936, Gandhi was nominated several times by many people. And why? There was a kind of shock when the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to a prisoner of Hitler in a German concentration camp, to the journalist Karl von Ossietzky, who received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1936 for the year 1935. He died from the effects of his internment in enforced labor in a concentration camp. And he was actually killed by the Nazis, but in a slow way. And I met his daughter, and I know in this family they spoke about Mahatma Gandhi all the time, because the wife of Karl von Ossietzky was from Hyderabad, actually from an Anglo-Indian family, and she wanted. She was a nurse in Manchester, and then a suffragette, and she was Maud Litchfield Woods, and now then Maud von Ossietzky. And the daughter always wanted to become an Indian dancer. and to study Indian dance. So that was her dream. And I just want to remind all of us that Karl von Ossietzky is not so well known. He is the German Gandhi. He was the German Gandhi. He was a prisoner because he resisted to leave the country during fascism, and he and his family suffered. And Gandhi highlighted Martin Niemöller and Karl von Ossietzky explicitly. So just to give you some reference to those great Germans who applied the nonviolent resistance principle because they did not want to be prevented from searching truth. And this is what an individual or a family or a community can do. There is no guarantee in the outcome, as we know, but that's I think a common challenge for all of us to go deeper into these cosmopolitan world federation concepts, just to renew our international system so that many lives are, are rescued, many and the dignity and well-being of all the fragile and vulnerable human beings are guaranteed in future. And this is that's why, by the way, I just want to inform you that my focus in the moment is in my monthly work. I publish a newsletter on fraternity of brotherhood and sisterhood, brothers and sisters of the world. So I would like to send to you. It's quite interesting what you can find. The last one was about Indian concepts of fraternity and Indian philosophy and Indian mythology. So in case you would like to stay in touch or uh, start a dialogue or keep on the dialogue, please write us. I gave you the links, so you're so welcome. It is a volunteer work from my side, and there's a lot of let me say joy combined with studying and researching. It's a it's a great joy to follow the traces of our great ancestors, and also the ancestors are linked to the religious traditions, of course. My name is Christian, my first name, but you know the great Jewish prophets, and here I have small figures here of Lao Tzu, for example. You see, Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, and the Wu Wei principle, non-doing. Gandhi represented this too, and Buddha, of course, and Thiruvalluvar, the Kural, author of the Kural, and you find these great prophetic tradition uh, and in the Jewish religion, which is so significant, the Decalogue and the Golden Rule. And all this brings us to implement these principles into a political world order which is not immoral, but which um, respects the dignity of all human beings, the life and physical, psychological inviolability of each and every one. That's maybe the last word of my lecture for you. at the moment. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and with you.
Thank you, sir.